Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, October 25th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle flying solo on today's show. J-Book had someone in his family pass away. He is out of town at a funeral. So thoughts with J-Book and his family today. Buddy, I hope you're doing okay. And J-Book will be back with me next Friday previewing the Penn State game. But today we're going to talk Nebraska game tomorrow. What do we want to see from this Ohio State team? Can they answer some of the questions that we have? Are we going to see personnel changes? How's Zen going to look at left tackle? We know that's going to be one personnel change, but what about at safety? You know, if Lathan Ransom is not going to play, which it doesn't sound like he will, if you read between the lines, I just hope he's ready for, if you tell me they get to the postseason and Lathan's completely healthy, I would take that. Sounds like, Coach Day said it's not long-term, but it doesn't also sound like he'll only be out 1 week. I'm just spitballing there. But we're going to get into all that. We're going to look around the world of college football, focusing on the Big Ten. Yeah, we'll talk about Kyle McCord last night against Syracuse. I feel bad for him. Never had any bad blood for Kyle, but I also never bought into, did Ohio State make a mistake getting Will Howard? So we'll get into that. Kyle's a good kid. I felt bad for him last night, but that was really, really bad. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, Syracuse got blown out by Pitt last night. That's understandable. Pitt's pretty good and they're playing at home. Kyle threw 3 pick sixes in the first half. It's the first time that's happened in college football in 19 years where a quarterback threw 3 pick sixes in the first half or any half of a game. Ironically, the other guy was named Kyle too, Kyle Allen from Texas A&M. He ended up playing in the NFL. So Kyle's a good kid and everything. It's just he's a statue back there and also was throwing to the wrong team. Ended up with 5 interceptions, no touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown. No passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That'll kill your quarterback rating. All right. What you guys want to do as far as quarterback rating is get with Prize Picks and pick really good quarterbacks in the NFL. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money with sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. So they do more or less. Same thing as over under. Because everybody uses over under. They differentiate themselves with more or less. It's kind of cool. It's basic. You think Jamar Chase is going to get more than 83.5 receiving yards against the Eagles this week? You think Nick Chubb's going to rush for more than 55.5 yards? You can pair those guys together and take the over. Take the I already messed up what they call it. Yeah. The more you want to take the more, not the over. I'm so used to saying over. So have fun with Prize Picks. Download the app. It's awesome. And you guys can get a great deal. $50 free in your account. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code Bucknuts to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Just play a $5 lineup and you get $50 put in your account. That's awesome. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code Bucknuts to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, is Ohio State going to run their game against Nebraska tomorrow? I think they will. Buckeyes favored by 25.5. I need my co-pilot J-Book here. I didn't want to reach out to him and be like, hey, can I get your prediction? If he wanted to send it to me, he could, but I didn't want to bug him today. He reached out to me yesterday and told me he couldn't do the show. So I feel for J-Book. Hey, knowing him, our prediction is probably going to be exactly the same anyway. Or I'll cut to the chase here. I got Buckeyes winning this game 42-17. So got them covering the spread, but barely. So we'll see. I think Nebraska is not as bad as what they looked last week against Indiana. Indiana is really good, but Nebraska is not terrible. You look at the Nebraska-Illinois game, for example, was tooth and nail, and Illinois is they're not. I don't think Illinois is that good. They're 22-point underdog or 22-point underdogs at Oregon this week, fighting Illini, but they are ranked. Illinois is a solid team, and Nebraska was right there with them. That was a 50-50 game. Illinois won 14-7. That was in Lincoln, though. And I tell you what, that win over Colorado for Nebraska is looking pretty good. Now that Deion's got the Buffaloes looking good, got them at 5-2, a big 5-2 versus 5-2 game in Boulder this week with the Bearcats of Cincinnati going up there. So I don't think Nebraska's a bad team. I think they're going to come in here with nothing to lose. Dylan Raiola is a talented quarterback, but mistake prone. Obviously very young as a true freshman. So I think in the future he'll be a good one. But, as we all know, he's a former Ohio State commit. He's going to verbal commit. He's going to come in here with something to prove. Matt Rule's going to pull out all the stops. He will. They've got nothing to lose. They're, Nebraska sees they're a 25.5-point underdog. They're going to pull out all the stops. So I think what we could see tomorrow, high noon, Fox, is it could be an interesting first half. I could see some things, it could be maybe not as great of a first half as we want. Watch Ohio State come out and just destroy them. But I think Ohio State is just too talented over 60 minutes for this Nebraska team. And this is a bad time to play Ohio State. Not that it's a great time to play Nebraska. They're ticked off after getting embarrassed last week by Indiana. But, man, Ohio State coming off that Oregon loss, and then a week to stew on it, almost 2 weeks to stew on it. This is the game's in Columbus. Not a good time to play Ohio State. So I'm going Buckeyes 42, going Cornhuskers 17. That's where we're at on that. All right, so many different things. So the questions that I want answered, I'm sure some of you guys want to answer. Let's get into that. The pass rush for the defense. That's been a huge topic of conversation, rightfully so, especially this week with Nick Saban saying Ohio State's pass rush is antiquated and Ryan Day agreeing with that. I mean, for context, it was like, yeah, if it's not working, it's accurate. He was asked point blank, is Nick Saban accurate when he says that? And I was thinking, oh, Day's not going to say, yeah, that's accurate. He's going to say, well, we got to be better. But no, to credit Ryan Day, he was like, yeah, it's accurate if it's not working, and it's not working. So is it going to work against Nebraska tomorrow? It needs to. Not to win this game. They could get by this game without having tremendous pressure on Raiola, but that wouldn't be a good sign moving forward because still go back to that Oregon game. Dylan Gabriel, they didn't make him uncomfortable at all. It was the exact opposite. It looked like Dylan Gabriel was back with his buddies, on the beach in his home state of Hawaii, just chucking the football on the beach there. I mean, that's how comfortable he looked. Like he was on the beach just throwing, pitching and catching with his boys. Unbelievable. I don't know if they hit him all night, but it's not even about sacks. Sacks are great, but get pressure on him, make Raiola uncomfortable, and that will lead to turnover, especially for a true freshman. I mean, Gabriel's as veteran as they get. He's even started more games than Will Howard. So can this defense go from antiquated to modern, as we said on Wednesday's show? But seriously, can it be effective? Whatever a word you want to use, it's just effective is the biggest one. Can this be an effective, consistently effective pass rush? And until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. And frankly, I'll need to see it more than one game, although hopefully we do see it tomorrow. And then we can cross other bridges when we get to them, like that huge game against Penn State. Because I'm convinced if Ohio State wins that Penn State game, they're going to cruise into the Big Ten championship game with a rematch against Oregon. And I've talked about this a lot. Like, college football is interesting this year because there's a lot of good teams. There's not a juggernaut team, as evidenced by the fact that Oregon is ranked number 1 right now. Ohio State went to their place, as we all know, lost by 1, at night, raucous environment. Ohio State really should have won the game, yada, yada. My point is, if that's the number 1 team in the nation, we know Ohio State can play with them. In fact, if they do have a rematch in the Big Ten championship game in Indy, I would bet anything Ohio State will be favored. Of course, Ohio State was favored in the game at Eugene too, so doesn't mean Ohio State would win the game, but they would be favored. And right now, Ohio State has the second best odds to win the national championship. Second best odds of anyone to win the national championship there. Barely behind one team. Oregon, right? No. Georgia has the best odds to win the national championship, then Ohio State, then Oregon. Interesting stuff. So there you go. It's easy to say, all their goals are still ahead of them, which they are. But if it wasn't like realistic they could achieve them, then what does that matter? This is very realistic. I still believe in this Ohio State team, despite the defense just looking disappointing against Oregon. All right, the other question, big question, of course, how is Zen Michalski going to look at left tackle? I thought he looked pretty good against Oregon. I mean, he's got the size. He's now a veteran, 4th-year junior. He's got another year after this one, of course. But in his 4th year, 6'7". They list him at 6'6". He looks closer to 6'7" to me. He was listed like 6'8" in high school. He's probably about 6'6" and a half. They're pretty specific with the height and weight over there, which I actually like. But seriously, big guy, 6'6", 6'7", 320 pounds, long arms. How's he going to look? And again, we keep talking about this, but the true test will be Abdul Carter and the boys in Happy Valley. But still, Nebraska's got some dudes on their defensive line. I like their defensive tackles more than their ends, but they've got some decent. So this will be interesting. They've got some decent defensive ends too. So this will be a good test for Zen going into that Penn State game next week. If he can hold the fort down at left tackle, that's going to be huge. And I know I'm not breaking news to anybody out there. The other thing on offense I really want to see is a downfield passing threat. And, Will Howard is confident he can do it. We saw him do it in practice. Not that he's like going to be Cardale Jones or anything and be throwing the ball 70 yards down the field, but he can throw the ball 40, 50 yards down the field accurately. We've seen him do it in practice. In games, the only time we've seen him throw deep, he's underthrown the receiver. And he said they haven't had to use it that much. Okay, that's fine. But Ryan Day said they've got to be better in that department and that they were going to be launching a lot of footballs in practice on Tuesday. So we'll see. I mean, this is a very effective offense. They're doing a lot of good things in the passing game, rushing game, but can they get a downfield passing threat? Because if they are going to eventually achieve all their goals, they can't just have a short and intermediate passing game, in my opinion. They have to have that deep threat. You have to be able to have those safeties back where they can't, where you then open up that middle part of the field, opens up the run, does so many things if they are scared of you hitting them over the top. And if they're not, what did we see against Oregon? Oregon eventually decided, okay, we're not keeping our safeties way back. I think Oregon was scared of getting burned in that game because they know about Ohio State's receivers and Oregon's DBs on the smallish side. I think they're worried about it. And then, until they weren't, Ohio State was gashing them in that run off the left tackle in the first half. We saw Oregon adjust, bring their linebackers up closer, bring their safeties up, and really shut down Ohio State's running game. Now, Ohio State, you could argue, didn't go to the running game enough, but a product of that was when they did go to it a few times, Oregon had adjusted and was basically daring Ohio State to throw deep, and they were not able to do it. So can Will Howard show that he can be, again, not that it's going to be his main thing, but can he be a guy that completes I'm not asking for 10, completes 2 deep balls a game in addition to all the other stuff? That would be extremely dangerous. Throw more than 2. Although going 2 for 2 wouldn't be bad. Legit 40-yard passes down the field. Your traditional 9 route, your go route, those type of passes. Try 3 to 4 a game, and hopefully you complete 2 of them. That would be huge. All right. Let's get to some other stuff here. All right, other things. Any personnel changes? Okay, not including Zen. We know that. But as far as safety is very interesting to me. We talked about Lathan at the intro. Hopefully he's just, in my opinion, hopefully he's just okay for the stretch run. You can say hopefully he's okay for Penn State. That'd be great. But first of all, it sounds like that'd be rushing him back. And second of all, I don't think that's going to happen. But just get Lathan ready for the postseason. I thought that was a big loss down the season or down the stretch last season. Could have used him against Michigan last year, that's for sure. So if Lathan can't play, who's going to play? Maybe Jalen McClain, the true freshman. I've heard keep an eye on Lorenzo Styles Jr. I'm sure they're going to not just roll with one guy the entire game or while the game is still, not out of reach. They're not just going to play one guy. They're going to use different guys. They could put Jordan Hancock back there, put Jermaine Matthews in at slot. Like I said, they could just put Lorenzo Styles Jr. back there. They could put Malik Hartford back there. They could put the aforementioned Jalen McClain back there. They have options. They have options here. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, how much they mix and match, and who looks the best back there, assuming that Lathan is going to have to miss a few weeks here. And I want to see Caleb Downs just do the Caleb Downs that we expected, that we've seen even at Ohio State. Watch the Michigan State game. He was just flying in there, just looked great. I don't think Caleb Downs is having a bad year or anything. I just feel like they got to put him in better positions, unleash him. They said they activated him against Michigan State. Well, keep him activated, and there will be no deactivation of Mr. Caleb Downs. We're keeping him activated. Do not deactivate him. All right, let me get to so those are some of the things that I'm looking at there, you guys. I mean, can the defense get the pass rush? How's Zen going to look? Can we get some deep balls from Will Howard? What are the personnel changes going to look like? Who's going to be that safety if Lathan can't play? And then it seems to be there is still a good battle at right guard. I thought Tegra might just take that and run with it, but Austin's playing well, so It's another one to keep an eye on, right guard, which I didn't think would be saying that. I thought Tegra, and I think Austin's providing good depth, but I just thought Tegra would take that and run with it. I think Tegra's playing good, but they need to get more consistency there. So I think we might see those guys rotate a little bit. All right, let me do one more read here real quick, and then we'll get back. We'll talk. We're about ready to talk Michigan, Michigan State. We'll talk about Kyle McCord last night. We'll talk about Illinois at Oregon, Penn State at Wisconsin. Ooh, Wisconsin looked awful earlier this year. They've turned themselves around. All of a sudden, this quarterback actually looks decent. And their air raid offense, which seemed to be a joke. Wisconsin air raid offense. Like, what's Luke Fickell thinking bringing Longo in here to run a air raid offense? And it has clicked for the Badgers, and Penn State is favored by 6.5. There's been some strife in Happy Valley this week from, James Franklin just not talking to reporters because they want to ask about the two guys that were kicked off the team, rightfully so, for the rape allegations, this horrible allegation. If those are true, like those kids, it's not that they won't play football again. They'll be in jail. They'll be in prison for a long time if those allegations are true. So, and James Franklin's not answering any questions about it. They were kicked off the team. The incident happened, I believe, in July, and they were kicked off the team in August. I think I have my dates right. July of this year, and then they were I don't know if they didn't know right away or if it just took a couple weeks, but then they were dismissed before the season started, I believe, near the start of camp. Maybe right before camp, but I believe they were, the incident is alleged to happen in July, and they were kicked off in in August, and it's bad. And so who knows? I don't know. Maybe that won't affect Penn State, but it seems like that's a distraction. I mean, James Franklin, it's made national news the way he handled that press conference where he wasn't answering questions about it. Now, they did say ahead of time, we're not going to answer questions about it because it's an ongoing investigation. And the reporter still after that asked questions, and he just left. So you can see both sides of that. When they do tell you ahead of time, no questions about it, somebody still asked a question. Then they came back again and said, hey, no questions about this. We can't talk about it. And then the first question after Franklin came back was asking about it. So I see both sides on that, but I don't see both sides on, geez, these kids should be these young men should be in prison for a long time if these allegations are true. But you do wonder if this is going to affect Penn State. And all of a sudden, Wisconsin looks like a competent football team. I'll tell you what, more than competent company that has launched recently that we love is Cornbread Hemp. And if you like THC gummies, you guys got to try this company out. If you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They've created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that's 100% legal for anyone 21 and above. Cornbread's gummies have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy for just the right dose. Perfect for taking the edge off without making you feel anxious or paranoid like other cannabis edibles. Furthermore, Cornbread does not use any synthetic ingredients at all. Again, if you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They've created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that's 100% legal. As a special offer for Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts. Use promo code Bucknuts at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. There you go, Cornbread Hemp. All right. For those that are just tuning into the show, I'm sorry that you're just stuck with me today. My guy Jay Book had a family member pass away, so he's out of town at a funeral today. So thoughts are with Jay Book. Love you, my man. All right. Well, Jay Book will be back next week previewing the Penn State game and having a very similar prediction as myself, I imagine. If he texts me and says his prediction is 42-17, I will share that with you guys. All right, let's get back to matters of business. So, my gosh, Kyle McCord last night. Again, I said this at the top. I want to repeat this. I never had any bad blood for Kyle. I think he's a good kid. I think there might be some people in his life, directing some things that, maybe are a little misguided, and that's not his fault. But yeah, I mean, to take you guys back, basically what happened was after the season last year, or really, what was it? Before the Cotton Bowl. Yeah, before the Cotton Bowl. Kyle and, his father went in and talked to Ryan Day and wanted some assurances that Kyle would definitely be the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes in 2024. And after what Coach Day just said had witnessed, he's like, no, I cannot give you those assurances. So they took their ball, went to Syracuse. And then Ohio State, of course, brings in Will Howard. And then the debate ensued, oh, well, did Ohio State make a mistake here? And then early in the season, you look at just passing stats and people were cherry picking and being like, see, stupid Ohio State. Look at these great passing stats that Kyle McCord's putting up against Holy Cross. It's like, okay, let's see how it turns out at the end of the year. And by the way, he had negative rushing yards the entire season last night. I hate that sacks count against rushing yards for quarterbacks, but they do. And this will be the second straight year he finishes the season with negative rushing yards. Ironically, he had a rushing touchdown last night. 5 interceptions, 3 returned for interceptions, all in the first half. The 3 interceptions, the 3 pick sixes, all in the first half. Doesn't throw a touchdown. Again, 5 interceptions. Listen, there's just no debate because especially when you factor in the rushing element, it's not even close. Because if you're facing Kyle McCord, which you're a good defensive coordinator or head coach who's a defensive guy like Pat Narduzzi, I mean, that is a dream scenario for you. You have a statue back there who and is a little skittish. They were mixing up their defenses. So it was the worst of both worlds for Syracuse because McCord was confused. Pitt was doing a good job of mixing up their looks, their coverages, their rush. And, McCord was just rattled, throwing to the wrong team. And Syracuse has absolutely no rushing attack at all. And Kyle can't run the ball himself. So Pitt knows you're basically playing 10 on 11 then. You're the offense. You're outnumbered. And you see the difference in Ohio State this year. They're a very, very poor team inside the red zone last year. This year, they're one of the best. As far as scoring touchdowns, they still haven't – they have a perfect percentage of scoring in the red zone. And they're like 24 of 26 of scoring touchdowns. 24 touchdowns and 26 red zone attempts. It's insane. And last year, they were one of the worst in the country. And it's not just Will Howard replacing Kyle McCord, but that's a big reason because we've seen Will himself rush in a lot of touchdowns. We've seen him scramble. He made a real good touchdown to Jeremiah Smith against Oregon where he rolled out to the right, made a hell of a play on the run. And just that, the defense has to respect it. The defense has to respect that. So then that opens up the running backs a little bit more. Or, it does open up maybe a pass to a tight end or to a Mecca or JJ. So it's just a snowball effect in a good way. So there was never any debate in my mind. And I think last night kind of put that to rest for good. I wish Kyle the best. I hope that doesn't people are saying, well, there goes any shot of an NFL career. Well, as we said earlier, Kyle Allen was the last one to throw 3 pick sixes in the first half of a college football game way back when, 2005. And, he played in the NFL. So I don't know, man. McCord might be like a late third-day pick. I see practice squad. I don't see him making an NFL active roster. I think he'll be a practice squad guy. We'll see. But, yeah, he'll maybe a 7th-round pick. Sick. I don't know. That's not going to help him that he's a statue back there. But if he can go to the combine and throw reasonably well, we shall see. But that's about as bad as it gets as far as quarterback rating when you have 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes. You don't throw any touchdowns. His average yards per pass were really bad because they threw the ball 64 times. Jeez. All right. By the way, Rutgers is playing at USC tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern. So there you go. Night Owls. Little Big Ten football at the Coliseum, 11 p.m. Rutgers and USC. USC favored by right around a touchdown, I believe, 6.5. Can Greg Schiano and the Scarlet Knights bounce back? They're not quite Michigan level as far as their quarterback play because it'd be really hard to get to Michigan level as far as poor quarterback play, but they're in the vicinity. Their quarterback's pretty bad. All right, Illinois at Oregon tomorrow, 3:30. Oregon favored by 22. That'll be interesting because Illinois is a solid team this year. They're ranked 20th, but Oregon's number 1 for a reason, so that'll be interesting. We'll see how raucous of an environment Autzen is for that game. I'm sure it'll be loud. All right, I'm really looking forward to Penn State at Wisconsin, another 3:30 game. So this will be we'll be able to watch the Ohio State game, and you guys will join me for what we learned live right after the game, post-game show. I'll have the dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Curl. It's a big recruiting weekend. We'll get him on here. I'll have another guest in addition to Bill. And then I'll have Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwagon join me after the game from post-game interviews. So we'll do that, and then we can watch some Illinois, Oregon, Penn State, Wisconsin. Penn State, Wisconsin. I was not expecting this to be an interesting game, and maybe it won't be. I really think it will be. Penn State, you look at it, USC was looking really good against Penn State in the first half, to the point where I went on our friends at Lions 24/7 was reading their message board, and people were ready to just, get the guillotine out for Tom Allen. They were ready to say Tom Allen was a terrible hire as defensive coordinator. And then Penn State came out and pulled it out. Maybe not because of their defense, mostly because of their offense. I really do like speaking of Penn State coordinators, I really like their offensive coordinator that they brought in from Kansas. He's the real deal. It's the most innovative offense I've seen from a James Franklin team at Penn State, which, again, not a high bar, but this guy knows what he's doing. Was really good at Kansas, and look how much Kansas has fallen off without him. So I do like their offensive coordinator, but they struggled against Bowling Green. Bowling Green's a very good MAC team, but still, that was almost a dead heat against Bowling Green. Did not look good against a very mediocre USC team. So, and now all of a sudden, Wisconsin, who looked like they were headed for another 7-6 season, something like that. They've turned their season around and they look good. They finally, this Phil Longo run and shoot offense finally looks like it's running and shooting. So they look good. Their quarterback looked lost last year when he had to come in as a redshirt freshman, including against Ohio State when their starter was lost. Mordecai was lost for a few weeks with a broken hand, I believe. So this kid, who's their quarterback now, is a third-year sophomore, did not look good last year. Didn't look good early this year, and he's looking good now. They're throwing the ball just deep down the field. We know they can play defense. We know they can run the ball. We know Camp Randall is no joke. So this could be a tight game. I'm going to stay away from. I'm just going to enjoy the post-game show with you guys and enjoy watching some football. I'm not going to put any money on this. And if I did, it'd probably be just very, very low. I like my little $10, $20 bets because it's like if you win, it's fun. If you lose, it's like, okay, whatever. If you're out there trying to bet to pay your bills, don't do that. Don't do that. I read too many stories about people ruining their lives with gambling. But if I were to bet on this, I might be tempted to go Wisconsin money line. But no, I would take the points. I think Penn State will probably win. That's just too many points. 6.5 from what I've seen. These are two teams trending. Well, Penn State's undefeated. Say they're trending in opposite directions isn't fair to Penn State. But I don't know. Maybe my gut tells me that things will be trending not great for Penn State here shortly. I think Penn State will win, but Wisconsin will cover, and I'm looking forward to seeing that game. All right. Michigan State at Michigan. Michigan is favored by 5 points. 7:30. Big Ten Network. I don't know. I like Michigan State on the money line here. I think Michigan State's going to win this game. I mean, Aiden Childs is turnover prone, but man, he's talented, and he's gonna continue to get better. This is his first year as a starter. Played as a backup to DJ U at Oregon State last year, and got a decent amount of playing time as a backup true freshman. But now, first year as a starter, he's been overall good for Michigan State. Michigan State did a good job with their hiring of Jonathan Smith. That was a really good hire. By the way, I forgot that they hired him at $7.25 million a year, but hey, they got out of the Mel Tucker contract. They probably feel like they're rolling in cash. I forgot that Jonathan Smith commanded that much of a deal, $7.25 million. He's living up to it. I thought Michigan State was going to be a disaster this year, and they're not good, but they're a solid team. So Aiden Childs is like an effective, turnover prone, but a very explosive, talented quarterback, whereas Michigan has 3 guys who, like I keep saying, like if you're name a team in Ohio that has a chance to win the state championship this year, and I'm talking D1, like Moeller, give me whoever the powerhouse team in D1 is this year. You wouldn't want any of those 3 guys as your quarterback on the high school team. If you want to win the state championship in Ohio D1, you wouldn't want any of those 3 guys. Still amazing to me they didn't go out and try and get somebody else. I'm sure the pickings were slim, but it couldn't have been that slim. You had to go out and find somebody better than those 3 stiffs. So I think Michigan State's going to win this game. I don't know what y'all think, but I think Michigan State's going to win this game. And again, going back to Nebraska, I think this could be interesting in the first half for Ohio State to some degree, but I do think Ohio State's going to pull away, and maybe they'll take it to Nebraska right away. I'm very confident Ohio State is going to look good overall tomorrow. But again, I'm looking forward to, can this defense make Raiola uncomfortable force him into mistakes. Sacks are going to be great, but hit him. Make him uncomfortable. Pressures. Mix up the defense. Don't always rush 4. Are we going to see, more of the Jim Knowles fingerprints, kind of the stuff he did at Oklahoma State, and less of the Larry Johnson fingerprints? We'll see. It's easy for them to say there's going to be these changes. Will we see them, and will they be effective? How's Zen going to look? Deep balls from Howard. Who's going to be the safety if Lathan can't play? We got into all that on the show. Really appreciate you guys joining me for what we learned live immediately following the game tomorrow. Again, thanks, guys. Appreciate it very much. J-Book, we're all thinking of you, man. And Bucknutters, have a great day. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much. If you're still with me, I want to tell you about our great friends at Mando. Bam. I probably should have told you guys earlier. They also have, this is, full body deodorant for men. They also have full body deodorant for women called Lumi. So there, I know we have a lot of women that watch the show. Mando is awesome. We can get you guys a good deal. Like I said, I highly recommend it, because if you're like me and you've been using the same deodorant for like a long time, like for me, probably going back to I think I've been using what was until I got Mando. I think I was using the same deodorant since like high school. Didn't think there was any problem with it. And there really wasn't a problem with it. It just isn't as good as Mando. So I think it might be time, if you're like me, you've been using same deodorant for a long time, switch it up. It's time to try something better, something different. Not just different though, something better. Mando or Lumi. Mando was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Mando is American made, USA. It controls odor for up to 72 hours. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, that's what this is, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. Luckily, I have a discount code to help you get hooked on my favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Bucknuts at shopmando.com. Code Bucknuts at shopmando.com. SHOPMANDO.com. Thanks, Bucknutters. Appreciate you guys a lot. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Go Bucks.